Hi, welcome everyone. And my name is Emir. I am part of Venturous PR and I'm part of the creative team. And with me here today is the lovely Kistisha.
Hi everyone, I'm Tisha. I'm a member from the digital marketing team. So happy to be here with Emir.
Glad to have you as well, Kistisha. Glad to have you, Chuang, as well. Now, we'd like to welcome you on behalf of Venturous to Venturous Talk. Now, Venturous Talk is a podcast episode. This is the third podcast episode. And right now we are happy to have you here. You are an extremely talented individual. You are an entrepreneur, a journalist, as well as professional podcaster. And we here at Venturous, as well as our audience, would love to hear your opinions about podcasting. So we'd like to also have you introduce yourself as well to everyone, Mr.
Okay, well, a bit older than you guys. I'm 50 years old this year. I'm from Penang, from the island, not the mainland.
50 years old.
Yeah. 50 years old. So a bit older than.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you. A bit older than you guys. From Penang, from the island side. When I first, I graduated in law, so I never became a lawyer. Did some work in banking, did some work in audit. Then I went into journalism with the edge in the late 90s. And it's in that field that I've been spending most of my time working in primarily financial markets. So I worked for The Edge, I worked for Bloomberg, I worked for Reuters. But in between those stints, I started a couple of companies and I sold them off to, in the late 90s, I started a company called Asian Auto. And then we sold it off to Deloitte Ventures, a main board company in the early 2000s. So then I went back to journalism, did that for a few more years, went to London, worked in Tokyo, worked in Singapore, worked in London, left journalism during the financial crisis in 2008, came back, took a year out, and then I went into broadcast with BFM. And BFM's always been kind of like a side gig for me because I've been always doing my business on the side. I do a lot of consultancy, do a lot of training. And then as it's really been that status quo for the last few years. And I started my podcast a couple of years ago. Primarily because I wanted a platform to be able to to basically tap the context that I've made in covering financial markets, but primarily also to bring the expert opinions of a lot of people in my sphere to reach people like yourselves. So I had chosen 3 areas to do my podcast in, right? The first area was investment. The second area was in entrepreneurship. And the third area is in anything personal achievement kind of things like. So why investment? Investment because I think that today when you earn your salary, it's not enough. You have to be able to invest your money wisely and to make it grow for you so that at some point in time, not too distant future, you can retire with a good amount of savings and you can spend the rest of your life enjoying yourself, whether with your family or whether you want to travel or whether you want to get healthy. The second part is entrepreneurship. So entrepreneurship to me is very important because this period now is fantastic for entrepreneurs. It is full of capital. It is very welcoming of ideas, and the world is changing so fast that if you don't take the opportunity to be your own boss now, it's almost like a waste. And to me, because industry is so volatile and so uncertain now, if you become an employee and you earn a salary, it is no longer the certain thing it used to be because at any time you can lose your job. Like with COVID, right? So that's to me, entrepreneurship is very important. The third part of my podcast was the personal achievement side. So whether you want to travel the world solo, or whether you want to go from 100 kg to 70 kg, or you want to learn a new language, it's about personal development. So that's why I do my podcast, and that's essentially why I'm doing what I do now at the age of 50 years old.
Going back to your what you said about right now is the best time to be an entrepreneur. I have to agree with you because many people have lost their jobs recently during COVID, and we've also seen a spike in small startups and SMEs as well. Seen a lot of these youngsters who had jobs that were not really stable during the pandemic. They lost their jobs, and immediately they started up businesses, and now it's flourishing. You have online businesses and all that. And I have to agree with you on that as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I think guys. I think it's very important to realize, right, that failure is a part of development. It's very rare for a business to start the first time and then succeed. It's and in fact, it's much more instructive for people to go through a couple of failures first before then kind of like succeeding, lah. At least making the business survive. And in Asian culture, for the most part, your parents tell you, oh, you go to university, get a degree, and then get a job, and then save, then have a family, and then right?
The
Um,
typical things.
yeah, and then don't start a business because you might lose your money and then fail, and then it's going to be a loss of pride for the family, and right? So Asian
Yeah.
culture is quite risk averse, and they say, oh, don't lie, it's risky. But of course it's
Yeah.
risky, but you've only got one life. So if you don't maximize and make the most of all your potential in your life, then why live? And when you start your own business, you can basically do anything you want, and all of you guys have got youth on your side, you've got energy on your side, you've got this world which is changing so fast that it's you got to try at least to do something on your own. Yeah, but maybe
Yes.
I would put some conditions to that. Maybe don't straight away go into starting your own venture. Maybe go and work a couple of years in some company or some startup or some company where you can learn a few things and get good at something first before you go out and start your own business.
That I have to agree.
I have to agree that I think everyone has to take a leap of faith and they should always believe in what they're doing, and like you don't have to be scared to take the risk, and you don't have to be scared of failure. I mean,
Yeah.
advice to me as well. I'm scared to take the risk. But like should I call you Mr. Ku
No,
or
no, just call
Chuang
me
is
Chuang lah. Chuang, yeah.
all right, Chuang is fine. So, we all have been in the media industry for a long time, right? Were you in BFM since 2002, if I'm not mistaken?
No, no, BFM only started 2008. So then I started
Oh, okay.
in
I
2009.
see, I see.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. And you also have your own YouTube channel called Lumo, and you started podcasting like 2 years ago, right? Like your
About 2 years
first.
ago. Yeah. That's
Nice.
right. That's
And
right.
I would say you have like an illustrious career as a media professional. So, like, what are some of your most memorable experience you've had as a media practitioner? Like, tell us some exciting stories.
Okay, so you guys are doing mass comm, right? You guys are studying journalism,
Um,
mass
No,
comm journalism,
I
Public
think
relations and
yeah.
public
marketing.
relations. Okay. Oh, so you guys are studying public relations. Okay. So you guys, it's important if you're going to be a public relations practitioner, you've got to understand the mind of a journalist, right? And the mind of a journalist is one where the journalist is in many ways a very naive person, right? He or she, the typical journalist is someone who believes he or she can change the world by covering what he or she believes to be the truth, what he or she believes to be newsworthy, right? So getting the story, getting the scoop is very important to the journalist. Journalists don't work in the industry for money. They don't work in that generally for glamour. They don't generally work in journalism for anything other than having this naive ideal that they want to be a balance of the police or the courts. You know how journalism is the fourth estate, right? It is the fourth arm which balances society. So you've got the courts, you've got the judiciary, you've got the lawmakers in parliament, and then you've got the journalists. And that's why through the years you've seen journalism cover all the scandals, cover the stings where politicians are found out for whatever they've stolen in the past, or covering companies and the scams. So the mind of a journalist is someone who is very idealistic and who wants to cover the truth. So as a typical journalist, you try and get the story. So some of the more adventurous incidents in the past have come from trying to tell the truth, and sometimes that comes with a bit of risk. So, for example, in the late 90s and the early 2000s, I came across a bunch of court documents which showed that this particular entrepreneur, this Tan Sri guy from East Malaysia, right, quite celebrated, quite well known in business circles, but he was being sued for over 200 million ringgit by 10 stockbroking firms for losses on his share trades which had gone bad. So then I took these court documents and I called him up and I said, hey, Tan Sri, we're going to run the story, but I need to get your comment because, it's about fairness, right? You can't just run a story without that person's comment. So then he says, okay, come to my office. And his office is in town, opposite Lot 10. I got to his office. He's this really, really short guy, right? Really, really short guy. And he had in plain view, a gun in his holster, on his shoulder. And he said to me, young man, you seem like a nice guy. You seem like you've got a lot of potential. Better you don't write the story because certain things can happen to you if you write the story. Then he opened his jacket and he showed me his gun. So then
Wow.
I was at the edge at the time. And then me and my cameraman, this guy called Gunny retired already. And me and Gunny were like, shit, what are we going to do, right? So then I said, look, we've got the documents, we're going to run the story. We just want to get your comment. And Gunny was like, shit, right? So then he gets up from the sofa. He comes and walks across the hall to me. He goes, young man, are you sure? It's a long way from here to the bottom there,
Oh,
So I was like,
Is this like a threat?
so sorry?
Is this like a threat or?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a threat. He said,
Wow,
don't write the story
okay.
because I'm going to kill you. This, East Malaysian people are, they can be gangsters, So then I went back to the edge and I said to Kitat, the editor, and said, hey, Kitat, I've got the story, but this guy has. So he says, Chuang, this is your choice. You want to run the story? I will not stop you from running the story. We can say that he didn't make a comment, but it's your call. So eventually I didn't write the story because, it's either the story or your life, So
Yeah.
yeah. So, but the mind of a journalist is that they want to cover the story. We want to get the scoop. We want to keep society honest. That's the mind of the journalist. It's about accountability. So that's why we do what we do.
That sounds extremely scary. If I was in your position, I don't think I could have handled that situation very well.
Yeah, maybe not worth it in this country, because this country can be a bit unregulated sometimes.
Yeah, it's a lot of shady things going on around, and then you could get tangled up in the wrong things.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. So
in the pursuit of the truth, you can get tangled up in the wrong things, and then bam, you just lose your life.
Exactly. So sometimes when people disappear, you're like, hey, I wonder where that guy went, right? Then you realize maybe he was caught up in something else. So in the end, we didn't run the story.
So at all. So you just swept it under the rug. Yeah,
absolutely, man. We just like, okay, let's not do this. And Gunny was like, yeah, Chuang, let's not do this, man.
Well, I guess that's a very good decision on your part. You're still around here today.
Yeah. That's right.
Okay, so Chuang, as you know, we here at Taylor's, we have just started a brand new student-led public relations agency, and it is due to be soft-launched on the 17th of November. Now, as part of our pre-launch activities, we do like podcasting and all that kind of engagement towards individuals such as yourself. And this podcast is obviously called Venturous Talk. And one of the primary reasons we would like to engage with individuals such as yourself is so that we can learn more about podcasting, considering your experience with podcasting and how you are also quite well known as a professional podcaster. So we would like to know how podcasting can be an invaluable tool to generate visibility for venturists, so that we can be exposed to the audiences out there. What's your opinion on that?
Okay, so podcasting, right? Podcasting is like radio without the shackles of regulation, right? It's very personal. It is one person on one person. And with the advent of video podcasting, now you can see the other guy as well. So podcasting and video podcasting generally has exploded in recent years. And one of the reasons why it's exploded is because people, or rather the audience, have gotten bored and they've gotten tired of produced content on stations. When you go to CNN or when you go to CNBC or when you go to Fox or whatever, it's all very, very produced. There's your editors, there's your compliance guys there. They tell you what you can and cannot say. So the reason why podcasting is successful among the successful podcasters is because of the honesty. It's because of the rawness of podcasting. So if you want to, I think, make a success of your podcast, it is important to realize that the principles of podcasting is based on being unproduced and being as raw and as honest as possible. So if, for example, initiative is run by young people, then you should be very honest about the things that are troubling young people, whether it's the lack of job opportunities, whether it's racism, or whether it's lack of opportunities, or whether it's low salaries, or whatever that is, and be very, very honest about it, and be as open as possible, because you do not want to unconsciously self-center yourself and then become like RTM, because then what's the point of podcasting, right? So I think in order to be successful and to generate visibility, it's got to be raw and honest. And when it's raw and honest, then people will start talking about it. And once they start talking about it, they'll then tell their friends about it. And then they'll say, oh, okay, yeah, these guys are making a lot of sense. And it speaks to them on a personal level. So I think that is one of the most important things.
Sorry. Oh, love that. But like during podcasting, right? Like I've seen your own Do More channel.
Yeah.
A few of like episodes, I would say. And undoubtedly you're an awesome podcaster. I would say that. Kudos to you. I love like how you invited like Yusuf Hashim. I think I watched Yusuf Hashim and Afin Huang's that episode, right?
Yeah.
So in your opinion, like how do we train ourselves to emulate your success? Like how do we get to where you are now besides like being honest and like,
Okay, first of all, I would ask you to define success, right? Because success, when you use the word success to apply to what I'm doing on my channel, it's not successful. I don't have a lot of subscribers, and the number of views on my shows are not high. So like, I'd be lucky to get 10,000 views on an interview with Yusuf Hashim, right? I might have gotten to 12,000 now. So 12,000 is tiny, right? Because when you have content on YouTube which gets 200,000, 300,000, 1 million, 2 million views, it's very different. So I wouldn't say I'm successful in the normal definition of things on YouTube. Definitely not in subscribers and definitely not on views. So I would ask you to ask yourself, what do you define as success, right? The second thing is, the reason why I think there's a certain amount of traction on what I do on my channel is because I'm an old guy already. And because I've been doing this for a long time, I can call people like Yusuf Hashim, and Yusuf Hashim will be able to check on me and say, oh, he's been doing this for some time and he's got a certain amount of credibility, or he's done this in the past. So it would be all right for me to talk to him, right? And I know these guys from before. Teng is the chief executive of Afin Huang. He's been there a long time. I've known him a long time. I can call people like Tan Sri Asman Mokhtar. And, I met Tan Sri Asman Mokhtar 20 years ago when he was still at Citigroup, right? So then, because we kind of like know each other professionally, I can get these guys on the channel and get them to talk. And the success, if you want to call it that, of this channel is because I can get people like that. It's not because I'm so awesome. It's not because of that. It's because I'm able to get these guys on because I've known them a long time. So it's like when you look at the Joe Rogan podcast in America, right? Joe Rogan can talk to people like Elon Musk. He can talk to people like Mike Tyson. He can talk to people like Robert Downey Jr. Because he's got good. He's very famous, but he can also get good guests, and that's why he's so popular. Because people want to hear what Elon Musk says, or they want to see they want to see Elon Musk smoking a joint, right? So obviously Joe Rogan is very successful and is very good as well, but it's also because of the quality of the guests he can get. So I wouldn't say, first of all, I'm successful. And secondly, I think the success of this channel, if you can call it that, is because of the type of people that come on. And these people are quality people, and they've done it a long time as well.
So it all depends on the people that you bring the conversation with, that brings in the views, the listeners. Like you said, they want to listen to these people, talk about themselves and stuff like that. So it's mostly about the guests.
It's about the guests. I mean, at the end of the day, the thing with anything media related, it's a performance, right? And I think a lot of comms practitioners, they don't realize or people who are spokespeople, they don't realize that it's actually a performance. It's about how well you speak. It's about how animated you are. It's about how passionate you are. It's about how qualitatively substantive you can be, how clever you are, how insightful you can be. If you get someone who is a bit boring and who doesn't have a lot of experience, doesn't have a lot of anecdotes or stories, then it's not going to be very good, lah. So when you've got two guys on a podcast, the guest who's obviously somebody, and the podcaster who's on the other side, you've got to have two people in a performance. So then for the duration of the podcast, it's a performance. You got to joke around, you got to be a bit animated. And that I think is where the element of the podcaster comes in, because that person has to play the game and perform as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where the skill comes in.
And so basically we can understand from that. Yeah, we can take that and then we can try to apply it in Venturous, try to be to bring in more interesting people as well and try to emulate, like you said, be more articulate the way we speak and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And another thing about
I'll give you an example, right? You know how when you give questions to the guest, right? So you got 10 questions, right?
Yeah.
And then for example, the I wouldn't call it novice, but I would call the unexperienced journalist or podcaster would just go through the questions, right? But the thing is, sometimes you got to listen to in fact, oftentimes you got to listen to the guest, and you got to listen very closely, because sometimes the guest, and if the guest is very good, sometimes they say something very interesting, and then you're like, oh, okay, well, tell me more about that, and then you listen, and then you explore that like little avenue off to the side, then that's where it gets a little. But when it goes off the script, that's when it gets interesting. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, definitely.
You want it to be spontaneous and a little bit natural, So
it cannot be just reading a script kind of thing. It has to be a natural. It's like having a conversation.
That's right. Yeah.
Because that's what people want to hear. People don't want to hear scripts.
Yeah, they don't want to watch another RTM, or they don't want to watch like CNN, right? It's so like scripted,
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the natural conversation flow, getting to know each other.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I think Elon Musk had no idea he was going to smoke a joint until he got there. Then Joe Rogan says, "Hey, you want to try some?" And he goes, "Yeah." And then that just exploded, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Viral, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
So another thing, right, about not following the script is the fact that for podcasting generally people don't really follow scripts, or do they actually? Some of them actually do prepare scripts. Is it usually just like a conversational thing?
Well, when I started my podcast, actually I just invited people, and then I said I've got no questions. I don't know what I'm going to say, and then actually the first few podcasts, I had whiskey, right?
Because I saw.
I had a whiskey sponsor. He says, "Hey, I'm going to put my brand there. Can you guys just..." So obviously, for those who can drink, they can drink. Those who can't drink, they don't drink, So I think for like Azran Osman Rani, of course, definitely not. He's firstly an athlete. Secondly, he doesn't drink, and of course, Yusuf Hashim doesn't drink, right? But for them, the Chinese guys, and so then it's very, very like, I just wanted it to open up and then just see where we go. But that in itself has a lot of risk to it, because sometimes it just gets a bit boring and gets a bit like vague, So then now where I am now after 2 years is I just have generally the areas I want to discuss, and generally I have a flow, right? Then I just say to the person, okay, we're going to generally talk about these things, and generally we're going to go in these directions. But then the person says something which I find interesting, then I'll just like, oh, okay, that's interesting. Then I'll follow that path down the line and see where that takes us.
I see.
Yeah.
So,
but I think now a little bit of structure is good, but don't let the structure define the interview.
It'll be so rigid, right?
Yeah, don't be so rigid.
So, speaking of podcasting, there's another question that actually we wanted to ask your opinion on. Now, podcasting nowadays, there's like so many ways that you can listen to podcasts. There's so many apps. Even Spotify has podcasts, Apple has podcasts, and there's video podcasts.
Yeah.
So, in your opinion, Chuang, how would you say is a great way for us to stand out from all the rest? What's a
Okay.
great platform?
Well, first of all, I am not very good at that because, as you can see, right, it's social media is so important, and you've got to be able to really know social media. And I think a lot of people don't realize, especially the older guys like me, right? Facebook has its own set of protocols and its own set of rules, right? Then Instagram, again, own set of protocols, own set of rules. And even on Instagram, that your reels, your stories, that's your, there's your postings, and there's IGTV as well. So every social media platform has its own set of rules and protocols to really, really stand out, right? So I think to have a successful podcast, there's a few parts to it. The first part is obviously the quality of the content itself, which is the guest and the way it's conducted. But then that's not all, because then once you've produced the content, you've got to go and promote the content. And marketing the content is very, very important, because you've got to use your channels, whether it's Facebook or whether it's Instagram or whether it's Snap or whether it's TikTok or whether it's, I mean, there's so many, right? LinkedIn and so then you've got to decide who you're trying to reach, what kind of segment you're trying to reach. So then that will then decide which platform you promote your podcast on. And then you got to go and learn those rules. So LinkedIn has got its own rules. Instagram has got its own rules. And then then you got to tag it, you got to describe it, you got to go and, so then sometimes you need to go and buy some ads around it as well. So then that part is not something which I'm very, very good at. So that's why it's not easy. It's not easy to be seen, right? But I think the most important part is the quality of the content itself.
Yeah.
And the guests that you get. And then after that, then if it's good, it should get spoken of, and it should get shared, and then your job becomes a little bit easier. So the centerpiece of your success should always be about the content, the guest, how you conduct it, how honest you are, how unproduced it is, how entertaining it is, and things like that.
But like, since you're doing your own podcast at YouTube, right? Have you ever thought of like, okay, maybe I want to do my own podcast like channel, do more at Spotify? Since you said like content, honest, like amazing guests, have you ever decided like, okay, like why not we try like Spotify?
No, it is on Spotify. So mine is an audio.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. So then I've got my audio host on Podbean, and when I upload on Podbean, it goes straight away to Google Play, it goes straight away to iTunes, it goes to Spotify, it goes to all these places. So you can do an RSS where it just goes automatically. So then you've got your channels, But then to get it heard on Spotify, to get it really like visible on Spotify, that again is a different set of protocols, right? So you got to understand how it works, which I don't really understand, to be honest. But so that's the way to get it out there. But once it's out there, how do people know? Because there's literally hundreds of thousands of new podcast programs every single day, right? Yeah.
Sorry. So like basically, us at Venturous PR, right? So we aim to actually help startups and SMEs with their visibility needs. So how can we angle some of podcast content when featuring the owners of these small businesses on our show? Like, what should we be talking about instead of like the usual? Oh, tell me about yourself. Tell me about your business. Like, how do we make it like more interesting than those typical questions that people usually ask?
To be honest, I don't know, because that's the secret sauce, right? The typical formula would be to say, "Hey, tell me about your business," or "Tell me about some of your challenges," or "Tell me about what you went through last week in terms of trying to sell your products," right? So that's the typical formula, right? But how do you make it interesting? I don't know.
You make it more interesting.
Maybe you can. I really don't know, right? Maybe you can make it much more interactive, where you do a business plan contest, or you go through actual problem solving on the show itself, where the chief executive or the founder says, "Oh, I'm starting my bakery, but my staff just left," and then you get all the audience to chip in and say something. But I don't know, to be original about that, to really look at it from a different angle, That's the challenge, lah. Because I do the same things. I talk to company owners, and then beyond like their challenges in operations, what else can they talk about? About themselves. So it's a you once you do it, then the more you do it, then what I mean. It's a process of going through the steps, and then you realize it needs this or it needs that. I'm no expert because I'm still learning. Yeah.
Well, you're a natural. You're such a natural, like the podcast that you do, very, very like, there's no like, how do I say, like, there's no like, oh, pause, and then like you have to think about what he said, and then like think about the next question. Like, like for us, like, I mean, we're new, right, Emir? So like we don't really know.
We're very new.
We're very new.
Actually, you're very good because you're asking questions in a very natural way. So I think that's very good. Because I can see Denali sent me the questions. You are following the questions, but you're not saying hey blah 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 blah. You're like, it's a very natural. So you're starting from a very good base already.
Thank you very much, Chuang. I appreciate that, actually.
Yeah. It's good.
Oh, coming from Miss Chuang, we're doing good.
Yeah, you're doing okay. You're doing good. Yeah.
We're getting there.
So basically, like going back to your going back to what you said in the beginning, I remember about you said about Joe Rogan inviting Elon Musk to smoke a joint. I think that kind of I feel like being viral nowadays really can help with exposure a lot, and doing something as like a crazy stunt such as that would definitely bring a lot of people to talk about the podcast, about the business. Like Tisha just now asked, like how we can engage with the businesses and how we can start and we can expose their businesses. I think by doing something like that, like the Joe Rogan stunts that he does with the celebrities, how do you think it's a very good idea here in Malaysia, or should we just start it?
I mean, well, first of all, I think marijuana is not yet legal here, so it might one day be, but maybe not, maybe, right? I think Elon Musk's episode was popular because it's Tesla, right? So everybody wants to know what he sounds like. I think for everybody who's doing podcasts, or for everybody who's doing content in the social media world, right? There's a distinction to be drawn between what is popular and what is quality. So quality is not always popular. You know what I mean, right? So if I talk about investments or whatever, right? It could be in the share markets, right? It's not something that everybody wants to listen to. So that's why I don't have 1 million views. But whatever I speak to the investment professional about, it's quality. So then you guys, when you do this, you got to ask yourselves, which part of the value chain, which part of the spectrum do I want to be? At one side is the most popular, but sometimes it can be really, really like dumb stuff, like doing stupid things or jumping off a cliff and getting like a lot of views and going viral, right?
Yeah.
So that will give you like a lot of million views, right? Because it's crazy stuff. But on the other side is like stuff like what I do, which is like a lot more quality driven, like investments or entrepreneurship. But not everybody wants to listen to those things. So you got to ask yourself, where do I want to be in the spectrum? Where's my balancing act?
Your target audience?
Yeah. Sorry?
Like your target audience, like where you want to, like, who do you want to target audience, right?
Yes. So the only way to do that is to keep doing it and you find that sweet spot. And finding that sweet spot takes a long time.
As well as also learning, like you said, to balance between the quality of the content and it's important to balance, right?
Yeah.
Rather than just focusing on, like you said, no one wants to just hear about someone droning on about investments and businesses for hours.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, to be honest, like me, I'm 21 years old. Like I wouldn't want to, like.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know much about like the adult things. So I'm a bit scared in a way.
Yeah.
So like I should. Sorry, you can go.
So I didn't catch what you said.
And I was just saying that I'm 21. I don't know much about investments. Like, so by having like your own, like your channel, I can actually gain more like insights and knowledge about what investment really is. Like,
Yeah.
and from different people's like perceptions, like Afin Huang's like, is it CEO Teng?
Yeah. Then yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So actually, you guys are my target audience. I wanted to talk to people like of your age, like 18 to 35 or 18 to 40, because 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 the investment world is full of sharks, and a lot of the people that sell you this stuff, they don't have your interest at heart. They've got their interest at heart. They
yeah.
are making the money, not you guys. So
Yeah.
so then the only way to not lose money is to know what you're doing. And the only way to not lose money and to know what you're doing is to get involved and start early and to learn about it because it's a lifelong process. I've spent a
Mhm.
long time studying this, and I've only just recently started to make money. It's not easy, but I think that everybody has to know investments because if you don't, you'll be forever working for salary, and that salary will not be enough because salaries are so low.
Yeah.
So you have to be disciplined and to know that if you make $10, you don't spend $10. You spend or 10 ringgit. You don't spend 10 ringgit. You save as much of that 10 ringgit as possible, but you don't save it. You have to invest it because savings now you've got no interest. Interest is like
Yeah.
2%. So you got to take the money. If you can save like 2,000 ringgit from or two ringgit from your 10 ringgit, right? Then you put the 2 ringgit in something, and then make that 10 ringgit grow 2 ringgit grow for you. So that is very important, and I think the more young people realize this, and the earlier you start, you'll find that when you hit 50 years old, that 2 ringgit has become like whatever.
Million.
It could be 2 million, right?
Yes,
And
exactly.
and yeah, and the other thing about today is that people are bombarded by things to buy.
Yes,
Mhm.
11,
definitely.
11, 7, 7, Lazada, this, that. 10 things, 9 out of 10 things that you buy, or 8 out of 10 things that you buy, you don't really need. It's
Yeah.
Yes.
because you're just told to
Yeah.
buy it and it's sexy, it's cool, it's what everybody's buying, but you don't need to buy that. You don't
Every
need to
time
buy
you're
an
going through your
iPhone.
phone, every time you're
Yeah,
going through
yeah.
your phone, there's an advertisement for something to buy.
Absolutely. So a few months ago, I did this series with these three guys from Hey Alfred, right? Hey Alfred, have you guys heard of it? Three young guys. They talk about personal finance, and they're very big into minimalism. And you can check it out. It's on my channel. Like it's three guys from Hey Alfred, and they're very big believers in like they don't own a car. They don't. I mean, they've decided to work remotely, and they're very into crypto. So they're going to move to Bali and do their crypto trading and run their business from Bali. So
Wow.
then, so then they're very prudent financially. They don't go out to nightclubs and spend like lots of money on drinks and like cover charge. They invest their money in their early 30s, late 20s, and they're very switched on to what it means to be financially safe, to be financially free, financially independent. So they are fire advocates, right? Financially independent, retire early. So it's very important that young people realize is you make money, don't spend it all, and invest it. So then you can retire early and enjoy your life.
That's a problem
Sorry.
because a lot of young people nowadays, like you said, there's a lot of things that on social media they
Yeah,
show you what to buy and all the
yeah,
lifestyles that
Mm.
you see from influencers
absolutely.
and the celebrities. Young people are too enamored by that lifestyle. And they want
Absolutely.
that lifestyle, even though when they don't have money, they go to lengths to get money, borrow money, just to
Yeah,
have that kind of lifestyle and then be in
yeah,
debt. That's a lot of young people nowadays are going deep in debt when they should do what you said, like invest their money and
Yeah.
hold on for the gratification for later.
absolutely.
The
As said,
gratification can come later.
absolutely. That's what even Yusuf Hashim says, right? If you go and listen to him
Yes.
closely, he says, look, you don't need to go and buy all that now. You just
Yeah.
Yeah, and then later on, when you've got the money, then you go and so the earlier you do this, the earlier you save, the earlier you invest, and forgo that iPhone 13. You don't need an iPhone 13. Really, you don't, right? It's bloody nice,
Yeah.
got amazing camera, but you don't need it. You know what I mean?
I mean, you can spend on a lot of things. Like someone that I know, like every year, you know how every year Apple would release a new iPhone, like so every year he would
Yeah.
buy like a new iPhone, like, even though
Yeah,
like
yeah.
his phone was like still okay. So sometimes
Yeah.
I like, for what, you know?
Yeah.
We
and
know,
it's
we
like-
know those kind of people, Tisha. Yeah.
Yeah, like seriously, like for what? Like who do you want to portray? Like, ugh,
Yeah, but there's a lot of people are so influenced by social media and by
Yeah.
celebrities and the advertisements and the sales, and it's very hard. So the discipline is very hard to cultivate. So if you can get to that stage of discipline where you tell yourself, I don't need that BMW, I don't need that iPhone, right? I can get by my mom's 10-year-old Honda Civic and don't care what people think. Because there's a lot of like consciousness around social media. Oh, am I driving the right car? Am I wearing the
Yeah.
right watch? You know, am I staying
in
eating
the
the right
society,
places?
right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. You know, you need to have that resilience about you.
Maybe I'll stop after the 11 sale because it's coming.
Exactly.
Last and I'm done.
Every month, there's always a Shopee.
It's always a
going
sale,
on.
man. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's
yeah.
always sales. It's so annoying. So like, how do I stop myself?
But my app is broken, so I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, yeah.
Shopee, you know, Shopee is so cheap. Like the amount of
Yeah.
stuff that I bought during the MCO, especially.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
People had more money to spend during the MCO as well.
Yeah, exactly, right? They just stayed at home and just did shopping.
Yeah, and
Yeah, yeah. So that's literally what I did.
yeah.
I bought new clothes, and where do I go? Nowhere. You know.
I think we can all relate to that.
Yeah.
So what about you, Chuang? Did you spend some money on the Shopee sales during the MCO?
Did I? Yeah, I did
Yeah.
actually. Yeah, because for me, delayed gratification is something which I still do practice, but I'm not 21 like you guys, right? I'm 50 years old. So you have to realize at some point in time, you have to start also enjoying your life, lah. It's about how you enjoy your life and how it's
Me right now.
everybody is different. Everybody's needs are
Yeah.
different, right? So then I bought a new camera recently, and I love photography.
That's an investment, right?
it is, I guess. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. So,
I mean,
yeah, but to also be aware that for every $10 10 ringgit I spend on my camera, I'm going to put aside some money and buy some Apple shares. I'm going to buy some Maybank shares and whatever, like it could be whatever you want. So yeah, don't spend everything.
That's another
Invest.
question that I would like to
keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But that's another question I would like to ask you, Chuang. For example, if that person has interest in his hobby, like let's say someone has an interest in cars or an interest in technology, the latest smartphones or the latest laptops or computers or gaming devices, and he wants to spend his or her money on those items. Would that be classed as a wastage, or would they be better off still investing? But they want to invest it on their hobby. They really want it, and then the people are telling them left and right, oh, you should better invest that money. Don't buy it. What's your opinion on that? Actually?
Okay, so first of all, I'm not a investment professional. Okay, so I better just say that straight away.
Okay, no worries.
The second thing is I want to say that it depends on how wealthy or not wealthy that person is, but how financially secure that person is. So if that person is not financially secure, then that person has to be very aware that how he or she spends has to be quite prudent. But if that person comes from some financial security, maybe the family is quite all right, and then that person is not paying too many loans or too many mortgages, and that person has got a good job where it's quite secure, and that person has got a bit more disposable cash, then yes. The third thing I want to say is that it's about how you define value, right? The value can be defined in many ways. So, for example, if I buy a nice watch and I derive great satisfaction from looking at my watch and saying that I've got a nice watch on my wrist, that is also value. Like if I go and buy a good pair of running shoes and I go and train every day or train every other day and stay fit, there's value in that because I get exercise benefits. It doesn't make me money, but it makes me healthier. If I look at my watch and it's a Rolex and I think, bloody hell, that's a nice watch, right? It doesn't make me money, but I feel so happy when I see my watch, right?
Yeah.
So there's a lot of questions you have to ask yourself. If you buy a camera and then you love photography, does that mean you can earn a side gig from that photography and get some income from it? If the answer is yes, then maybe you should buy that camera. If you have a car, right, and if you have a YouTube channel, maybe you start a YouTube channel about cars, and then it starts to snowball from there. Then there's value there, and then you can earn money from your YouTube channel. Then okay, so maybe there's something there. But I think the starting point is how financially secure or not you are before you start making those extravagant decisions.
Speaking of extravagant decisions and budgeting and all that, one of the questions for you about podcasting is: do we really need to invest in expensive equipment, in professional equipment, so that we can produce industry standard podcasts, or can we just use our phones or microphones?
Yeah. Or like, are we doing, or like, what are we doing now is fine. Like, do you think we need to invest in like professional equipment to like?
Yeah, short answer is no. Short answer is no. Is because the success or not of your podcast really depends on both of you and the people you talk to and what you talk about. So you can see it on morning radio shows, right? So, some of the more successful morning radio shows, people don't tune in for they don't necessarily tune in for the content or the music that's being played. They tune in for the chemistry between the people, about how entertaining they are, right?
Yeah.
It's about how much fun they're having, how much chemistry is being generated between the people. So once you get that formula kind of like right, and you get a following based on how good your content is, about how good your chemistry is between you and Amir, right? And with the guests, and then you got a following, and then you got a flavor of the show. Then I think you can start thinking about buying new equipment. But in the meantime, Zoom is great. Your phones have got good cameras, and then you start from there. You don't spend money unless you have to. And then really it's about the content. It's all about the content. It's how good the content is. The equipment is secondary. But if you want to start on quality equipment, then the audio is the most important one, not the video. It's the quality of the microphone.
It's up your voice.
Yeah.
Sorry, yeah.
No, it's okay. It's okay, Tisha. It's a lag. The lag is
like Shuang, like just now you said like it's all about the content, right? Like do you like, since you are a podcaster yourself, right? In your opinion, like do you think podcasts are here to stay, or do you foresee it being replaced by some other new media?
Well, podcasting is basically just another way of describing two people talking, right? And I think two people talking will always be there. And the appeal of two people talking in an informative and entertaining way will forever be there. How it morphs over time, it's not really relevant. Because for example, two people talking in an entertaining way is radio, and radio has been around for 100 years, right? And then podcasting came along, and it's still two people talking in an entertaining way. And then there was things like what is that app? There was can't remember what it is. Not Classroom.
What was it?
Remember there was class something, right? Yeah. You know that one, right? It kind of like came and went very fast. The podcasting. Not Classroom. Yeah. But basically, is podcasting here to stay? I don't know, right? But two people talking in an entertaining way, and you can see them and hear them in a clear fashion, is definitely permanent.
Will forever be relevant.
Yeah, forever be relevant. And if people can learn from whatever they say, and people can be entertained from whatever they say, then I think that is here to stay. So if you are very good at what you do, in terms of conversational skills, Emir and Kishtia, yeah. And the people that you talk to are very good at what they do, very experienced and very knowledgeable, then you will always have a gig. You will always have a role, because people want to learn and people want to be entertained. Whether it's called podcasting, or whether it's called radio, or whether it's called video casting or vlogging, whatever, that mode of communication between two people, three people will always be there. It will always have a place in society.
It always taps into the curiosity of people as well to know more.
Yeah, and
They
to
want
be
know more about
entertained.
a certain individual. They want to know more about this issue and all that.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely,
So, like you said, I
absolutely.
think it will always be relevant because people are always curious. People want to
Yeah.
know. You know?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So if you can somehow find your groove, and then you fill that groove, then you got to roll.
Definitely, definitely. You know, but speaking about like two people speaking, right? We engage with you, Chuang, because you have a lot of experience. You have had an illustrious career behind you, and even ahead of you as well. You know, you've done so much. So, what are some other inspiring podcasters that we also can engage with? Is there anyone that's off the top of your head? Yeah,
You mean in Malaysia or abroad?
it doesn't matter because
Anyone
yeah,
would be
anywhere
fine.
because yeah,
Yeah.
doesn't
Well, of course, Joe Rogan definitely, but he's in the US, so that's a bit harder.
Mhm.
I don't actually listen to a lot of podcasts.
I see.
I
Oh.
listen. Yeah, no, I don't.
You
Right.
listen to your podcast.
No, I don't. No, I don't like to
Oh.
listen to myself. I just like to get it done, and then the thing is, I see myself as a service provider. I see myself as kind of like identifying people who I think are quality people, and then getting them to share their experiences, and then to get them to archive it so that it's always going to be there on the internet for everybody to benefit from.
Mm.
So then once I do that, I move on to the next person. So I see myself kind of like it's like CSR for me, right? Because if I think that, say, Asman Mokhtar
Yeah.
can share his career and his career principles and his success principles, and I successfully get him to translate some of those principles onto my podcast, and that whole 2 hours is there for everybody to benefit from. So that's my job done. Then I move to the next guy. Then I see out there who I think is successful and I respect. Then I'll go and reach out to that person and then get them to do the same thing, and then just repeat lah.
Yeah.
I don't like to listen to myself. No.
See,
But you have like someone who you look up to, like, as a podcaster, no?
Not really. Not really. Not really. Joe Rogan, maybe, I guess. I mean, I follow a lot of MMA type. So Mike Tyson is a podcaster as well.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you guys do any fighting, or are you guys in MMA? No. So Chad, Chael Sonnen is quite good as well, but he's so some podcasts are monologues, right? They don't talk to anybody else. They just talk individually.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want, I'll send you some people that I follow, and so maybe you can. I'll give you my number, so then you can get in touch with me personally.
Okay.
I'll send you some of these.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. We can communicate on WhatsApp, and I can put you on my broadcast list as well. Because every time I do a podcast, I'll broadcast it to the people in my phone book. If you don't mind that, I'll just add you to my list.
Yes, please do. That's great.
Yeah.
Yes,
We would love that. We would love that.
Yeah. Like for example, so last night I was talking to this woman called Ainun. Ainun is she's an investment professional who works in London, and she's referred to me by a friend. She's just won some awards in London for in the financial world. So she's a mentor as well. She's my age. She works in this bank called Brown Harrison. She does private public debt products. So that's quite esoteric. So then I want to get her to talk to me about her principles. So that's kind of like these are the things that I do on my podcast. I just try and find interesting people. And the beauty about Zoom nowadays is that you can talk to anybody in the world without having to fly there. That's fantastic, right?
Yes. Yeah. Technology nowadays, huh?
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember the times of dial-up internet back in the 2000s?
Oh my God. Hey, how old are you, Amir?
I'm 24 actually, Tom.
So how would you know about dial-up internet?
because my father had to do a lot of work from home back then. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But he had dial-up internet, and I remember trying to go on the internet, and it was such torture. You cannot even call someone using the house phone.
Yeah. Exactly. It was like
or something.
Yeah, 28.8 kilobits per second. It was terrible. It was horrible.
I mean, back then we didn't have anything faster. So we thought like, oh yeah, this is cool. I can load up pictures of sports cars. So
Yeah, yeah.
cool. And then now when you think about it, my God, how did we survive dial-up?
Yeah, absolutely, man. That's computing power. It's gonna get even bigger, right? You have to do this. You have to do your podcast. You gotta get your feet wet. You know how Facebook is going into the metaverse now, right? So the metaverse is basically where you and I can go in the room in the future, and we can do our podcast there, where it's just our avatars, right? It's crazy. The metaverse is the next stage of the internet.
I saw the advertisement. Like,
Yeah,
wow.
this whole metaverse thing is crazy. So then if you say, hey, let's do a
Scary, no?
podcast, right? Yeah, we can enter this room and we can
Without
be
you
literally like,
actually
yeah,
there.
yeah,
Yeah.
I'm actually excited for it though. Any improvements or progress in technology is something to look forward to, you know.
I think so. I think
Yeah,
so. I think so. It's a
It's
huge
something
opportunity.
we never thought about any of this back
Yeah.
then, you know. And then now we have smartphones that have more computing power than space shuttle.
100%, man. This thing is a supercomputer, man.
It
You know,
is.
this thing used to fill a room in IBM in the 70s, you know, and now
Exactly,
look at this. It's this size.
We can do so much on it. You know, we can work from it. We can, you know, call people. We can listen to music. It's all in one. It's your camera.
Yeah.
Excited for all the things that come. So the metaverse, one of them.
Yeah.
Sorry. Emir, do you have a question still? Because I have one more question for Chuang.
Actually, for now, I think, I'll just pass it on to you, Tisha.
Okay, so Chuang, like,
Yeah.
hope you're still okay to answer our curiosity.
Sure. 100%, man.
As you can tell, like, us adventurous PR, we're very fresh, very green, and we are totally like inspired to serve startups and SMEs with their communication needs, right? So what advice can you offer to the students, like to us, me and Emir, involved in this Venturous PR?
Okay, don't be afraid. Don't self-censor. Don't like think to yourself, oh, we shouldn't do this or we shouldn't do that because it will offend this or offend that or it'll get us into trouble. Just drop all that and then just take risks. Just completely do whatever you think is creative, which you think will work. Talk about things which you might even be afraid of, or you think is risky, but just go out there. Yeah, just go out there, take risks, make mistakes, and then fall down, and then pick yourself up again, and then keep going, and just stay resilient and keep going, man. Don't stop because
Without failing, I think we can't really progress. You know, we can't get to anywhere if we don't fail, we don't fall down. We have
absolutely,
to experience that at least once, even in business.
absolutely.
There's no such thing as a business that's always, you know, at the top of the game. It's always going to go down.
Yeah. You gotta fall down.
Just now you said, like, just be yourself, right?
Yeah, be yourself. Absolutely.
Actually, like yesterday, like me and Emir, we had a dry run. So Emir was like, "Oh, I really have to prevent myself from swearing if I talk to him tomorrow," which is so funny. What say you, like?
Well, that's the thing, right? Swear if you must. Swear if that's your natural, lingo.
Oh, yeah.
Fuck it, right? Yeah. Absolutely. If you feel you want to be, I don't know, have a whiskey, or I mean, you don't drink, obviously, right? But or you don't want to be seen to be drinking, okay? Okay. But it could be anything. It can be anything you want. Just go crazy. Just go crazy, man. And
Emir, you hear that?
Yeah, you hear that as well, Tisha? You as well.
it's the same. It's the same thing with love, right? You've not truly lived until you have truly loved, and sometimes you think, oh, I shouldn't go out with this girl because of blah blah blah, or I shouldn't go out with that guy because of blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But you're young, right? So you don't want to be like, you don't want to wake up when you're 50 years old and
Right.
you haven't lived life, right? You didn't start the business, you didn't go out with that Italian girl, you didn't travel to the pyramids, you didn't have that whatever enchilada in Mexico. You don't want to live a life of regret. You want to do everything.
I'm trying my very best to live my best life during my early 20s, but what's stopping
Absolutely.
me? My parents.
Yeah. But obviously, I wouldn't say, go out there and take drugs. I wouldn't.
Yeah.
Or whatever, you have to know the line. Everybody's got their own moral compass. What is right and what is wrong, what is good, what is bad. You have everybody knows, right?
Yeah.
But it's up to that point. And if you think that you wanna, go and do Everest base camp, well, do it. Don't be afraid.
Always wanted to do that actually. Everest Base
Yeah,
Camp.
100%, man. And maybe up there, you guys can go there and do EBC and then do a podcast up there. You don't know. Maybe you do up there.
It would be
Going
quite a challenge
international.
though because of the
Yeah, yeah. But you can record each other, right? You don't have to upload it. You can record each other, then come down and then upload it. Do you know what I mean? Right? You can do anything.
By the time I'm already there, I won't even think about podcasts. I'll be like, nah, like we're done. We're going down now.
I would stay. I've always wanted to see the top of the world.
Yeah.
Always wanted to see it.
Yeah, and do it, man. Do it. Do it when you're still young. You got energy. That's what people like Yusuf Hashim did, right? He had a plan, right? He had a plan. He says, okay, I've got 4 kids. I've got my duties as a husband. I've got my duty as a father. I'll perform my duties and I'll finish early. So he had a plan, right? So he was done with his children and his career and his wife. And, he'd done his duties. So 53 years old, he retired.
He retired,
The next 20 years, he did everything. He drove from KL to London 3 times. He drove around Africa. He went to Everest. He went to Nepal. He went to, to the South Pole. He went to the North Pole. He's been enjoying life for the last 20 years,
He's not going to regret a single thing then.
Yeah.
100%. If he goes tomorrow, he'll say, I'm done, man. I'm done,
I did everything.
Yeah, you want to live a life that is the fullest,
Life is short. We only
Life is short.
We only have one chance at it.
Carpe diem, man.
Sounds like a song.
Yeah, you know the word, the phrase from in Latin, carpe diem?
Yes, carpe diem. Seize the day.
Seize the day. Seize the day. Yeah. You only here for a short amount of time.
Okay, Tisha, let's go to Mount Everest tomorrow.
We should. Hopefully,
just book a ticket. Chuang be like,
Yo, do it, man. Yeah. And send me your Instagram. I will see what you guys are.
Definitely, yeah. We'll be like,
if you invite Sean with us, we can collaborate, like the three of us there.
Yeah.
I'll put my phone number in here. You guys talk to me, send me a message now.
Okay, definitely. Thank you, Miss.
Thank you so much.
I hope that was useful.
Very, very, very useful. I definitely gained a few insight. Emer, did you?
Yeah, definitely. It's been awesome to have you here. And it's definitely been a huge mind opener, like the whole seize the day, do what you want to do. A lot of things you can learn.
Yeah. Do something which scares you every day.
But that's the thing, trying to do. Sometimes we're not sure of the outcome. Like what you said, you can just take the risk, go for it. But what if the disappointment is just too much for us to handle? How are we supposed to?
It's okay. Then you build resilience, right?
True. We grow from there, right?
Yeah. Sometimes when you break up with a girl, you think, "Oh my God, I'm going to die," but then then you build your resilience. And I think, one of the most important things in the future for young people, I'll tell my kids the same thing, right? Is to be resilient, because the world is so uncertain now. Who knew that COVID was going to hit, right? Who knew that we we're going to die from this virus? So if you can lose your job anytime, you can be housebound at any time, you can fall sick anytime, right? So the one thing that all people need to build as they go from here on in is to be resilient. Because if you're not resilient, you cannot survive in this modern world, because there's so much uncertainty. Now, I say that in all seriousness. For young people and old people, you have to be resilient, because if you're not resilient, it's the law of the jungle. Those who are weak will die, and those who are strong will survive and, in fact, even prosper. So, and one of the ways to be strong is to be resilient, to be able to take shocks, to be able to lose your job and bounce back from it, to be able to lose a loved one and bounce back from it, to be able to have a business go out of business and lose money and bounce back from it.
Definitely, yeah. It's all about resilience, because
100%.
Life is just, it can hit you out of nowhere, like you said, bam, suddenly.
Yeah.
And then you won't be able to do what you've always wanted to do.
Correct. 100%.
Right? Always take a chance.
And sometimes it can come from anywhere, right? Look at the amount of progress in artificial intelligence and robots. One day, they might be smarter than us. And then, bam, you're out of a job, right? or you can be disrupted by technology, and then what are you going to do? Some people don't make it. Some people they collapse, and then
Survival of the fittest.
yeah, 100%. You got to be resilient.
Definitely cannot be. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
I think future is a technology. It's scary, you know.
very scary.
It's cool, but it's scary.
It's cool. Yeah, it's both sides.
Yeah, like replaced by a robot. It's like, what do I do in the future? Like,
Yeah,
I mean, have you heard of Isaac Asimov, Chong?
yeah.
Yeah, he actually
Old guy, author. He wrote
Yeah,
2001 Space Odyssey. Yeah, that's right.
yeah, he did. That's also one of my all-time favorite movies.
Was that right? Okay, cool.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah,
So I remember him writing his one of his publications about how we should all be careful about artificial intelligence. How technology will one day surpass mankind. We have to be really careful about that and not let that completely take us over.
Yes. Send me that WhatsApp, and I'll give you a few names of people that I follow, and they're like scientists and historians, and go and read up on those guys. They've got a lot of experience. This is really professor that I follow as well. His name is Yuval Noah Harari. He's a historian, but he talks in his latest book about technology and about how in the future there will be one of the biggest divides, not just along monetary lines, will be along biological lines. Because if you belong in a rich country or you've got money, you can change parts of your body by paying for it, right? So if your heart
Augmentation.
you can change your heart, you can change your lungs, you can preserve your brain, you can repair your knee, and those people who are rich will be able to do that, and they'll become part robot in the future. And those who can't afford it, like in the poor countries, they'll just be left behind. And eventually, it's fascinating, and the pace of development and technology is so fast that we don't realize it.
It sounds like the plot to Deus Ex and Cyberpunk.
Yeah.
Recently,
It is true. Yeah.
But they can just augment their parts, improve their bodies with robotic parts.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. And then he also talks about how the robots, like how human beings have intelligence, but we've got two types of intelligence, right? We've got consciousness, which is our anger, our fear, our love, our hate, right? But then we've got the intelligence, which is computational, which allows us to solve problems, right? Like how to solve maths or science problems. But in the future, robots will have computational intelligence, but they do not have any conscious intelligence. So they will just solve problems without any regard for human safety. Right, yes, exactly, right? So it's a bit like when you have AI with self-driving cars, and that car comes to a point where do you kill the cow, do you kill the child, or do you kill the pedestrian? And then what does the robot do? So that's why self-driving cannot really fill human capabilities, I think, ever, because there will be points in time in the driving that you'll have to make those decisions, and humans will make a very different decision from a robot decision.
Definitely, yes. Robots can never make decisions like humans do.
Yeah, because
there's so many factors to making a decision,
Yeah.
Programming a robot, even an AI, to do the same things that we do, it's impossible.
100%, man. 100%. So we've got to control the robots, right? We can't let the robots control us.
We cannot. I mean, I think there's a certain limit to their abilities that we have to cap it at.
Yeah.
Pretty sure we can make them into independent machines that can think on their own. But as we've seen in movies and read in books, and TV shows, it's quite dangerous for the human race.
Yeah, but that's not happening now because the engineers, there is no regulation about technology development, right? Silicon Valley is not regulated. Bangalore in India is not regulated. The Russians are not being regulated. Everybody's in a race to build a perfect AI system. I mean, you look at Google, right? Google, when you have a conversation in a room with your friends and your phone is next to you, and then you could be talking about a Jamaican restaurant, and then like the next hour they'll serve you an ad on the Jamaican restaurant. You know what I mean? Everybody knows that, right? Or,
yeah,
they're listening.
Sometimes if I talk about let's go to this one hotel, let's go on a staycation. Then suddenly I was watching Instagram stories, like Agoda will pop up.
100%, right? That's AI. That's AI for you.
Scary, actually.
Yeah. This is only level 1, right? In 10 years' time,
God knows.
Honestly, I can't wait to see what's what in the future. But like we said just now, it's scary. Tisha, it's scary,
It is.
right?
Yeah.
Emir, you have
It's up to
any?
you guys, man. You guys are the one. You got to make sure you got to marshal this world.
Definitely.
The future is
Definitely.
ours, Emir.
Yeah, future is yours, man.
Future is ours. We as a human race. But yeah, I don't have any other questions, Tisha. So
No? John,
hand
do you
off
have
to you.
any other last word?
Well, no, just go out there and have fun. Go out there and take risks, have fun, do the best you can, fulfill your potential, seize the day, man. You know,
Yes.
don't be afraid. Take
Thank you.
risks.
We'll keep that in mind.
Thank you very, very much, Chuang.
Thank you for the privilege of talking to all of you.
Knowledge.
You as well.
I definitely gained something, and hopefully our audience gained something throughout this episode as well, and really understanding how podcasting works and a bit about what Chuang does. And yeah, with that, we have come to the end of our podcast.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Take care,
you
everybody.
so
much,
much.
Chuang. Honored to have you here.
Thank
See
you
you
for
soon.
joining
Take care, guys.
with us today.
All right. Take care. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
Bye.
Steve.
Bye.
Thank you so much.